Today I want to share with you the fast, everyday soft glam makeup look I do all the time in real life. It looks super put together, but it's also quick to do. This is the routine that I pretty much do on autopilot when I have 10 or 15 minutes tops to get ready and out the door, and almost everything is drugstore, I think, except for one product. So let's get into it, but first, if you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. This channel is dedicated to budget beauty. If that sounds like your vibe, hit subscribe. Okay, starting with skin prep. Personally, my skin has been so dehydrated this season, and I do feel like my skin dryness is what's affecting the way my makeup looks throughout the day the most. So I did recently add this prep step to all my makeup routines. This is the ITK Hydrating Milky Toner. ITK is actually the sister skincare brand to the Heritage Hair Care brand at Walmart. This hydrates, calms, and preps my skin. It has hyaluronic acid, green tea, and squalane. This is vegan and cruelty-free, and there's no synthetic fragrance. So I'm just gonna pump some out onto this reusable cotton pad. I believe this is from the brand Daily Concepts. And just swipe that onto my face. And then I'm just gonna fan myself for a second to help that dry down. And then as my official priming step, I'm using the Milani Make It Last Setting Spray, which not many people know is also a priming spray. It says it on the bottle. Prime, hydrate, set. And that's gonna be the step that actually helps keep my makeup in place. I'm not using a gripping primer or a pore filling primer. Like I said, my prep steps lately have been more geared toward holding in hydration. Next, I'm going in to spot conceal my reddest or darkest spots. I'm using the AOA Studio Brush On Concealer. This is the one product that's not technically drugstore. This is very similar to the LA Girl concealer. The only reason why I use this instead is because with the LA Girl concealer, I always used to have to mix two shades together to get a shade that matched me best, and this one just came in a shade that matched me. I use M1, and this is $1.55. So I'm really just dotting that where I have super dark spots and redness, and I'm not really worried about blending it quite yet. Under my eyes, I do use a different product though. This is the Milani Under Eye Brightener. I use the shade Melon. This color corrects some of that blueness under my eyes and adds radiance. I'm just gonna do 2 swipes right at the bottom of my eye bags. Blend with my sponge just a bit. Tapping, not swiping. Okay, after I've blended out my under eyes, I'm going to softly tap over the concealer to just sort of blend it a bit. I just didn't want the borders to be super harsh because sometimes that can show underneath foundation. Now, sometimes if I'm going really casual, I will just blend this concealer and only wear concealer. I won't go in with foundation, but today I am going to top everything off with the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation. Today I'm using Light Warm. This is a medium coverage satin finish foundation that looks really natural on the skin. It's only $8, a really great everyday option. And the reason why I go in with concealer first is that once I top everything off with this medium coverage foundation, everything that I want most concealed is pretty much good to go versus doing multiple layers of foundation. And often when I conceal first, I realize that I don't need as much foundation as I think because all the areas where, you know, things aren't going on, I don't need much more than a thin application. I find that if I'm starting from scratch and I'm looking at all of my dark spots and blemishes and redness, I will automatically apply with a little heavier of a hand with my foundation. So overall, this just kind of helps me balance out my product usage, which ends up looking better because I'm not caking on thicker layers of makeup. And I'm not necessarily going for full coverage, just to be very clear. I just want kind of a more even looking base overall. But I'm not fretting if I can slightly see, you know, one of my hyperpigmentation spots. Now, before moving on, I am gonna set my under eyes with the Lottie London Ready Set Go powder. I have the brightening pink version, which also helps to combat under eye darkness. And I will be baking. I do not care that this is considered like out of style. This is the only thing that helps makeup not crease in my face lines. So I'm just throwing that under my eyes, in my laugh lines, between my brows, and right in the middle of my forehead where I have those expression lines. Makeup loves to gather there. So we're gonna look a little crazy, but trust the process. While I let this powder sit on my face, I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my brows. I'm using the NYX Micro Brow Pencil. This is a great all-day brow pencil formula with a very fine tip. So you're able to achieve precise and small strokes. And I find that to be the easiest tool in order for me to get the brow look that I like, because I like a defined brow, but I don't want it to be sharp. I don't want it to be heavy. And I feel like I can get the most natural look the most quickly with micro brow pencils. Now, if you're really rushing and you feel like using a brow pencil or a brow pen is just asking to spend too long on your brows, grab a tinted brow gel and call it a day. For me, I just have these areas in my brow that literally have no hair, like my arch. So my brows never really feel done unless I've penciled in those areas. I will, however, be skipping brow gel because when I'm in a rush, that's what I do. Like I said, this is my real life routine. So when I am down to the wire, I just say a prayer that my brows don't look too unruly throughout the day and move on. All right, that is enough time, in my opinion, for this powder to have been baking, so I'm just gonna brush it off. Especially as someone who has natural, deeper creases under my eye just because of the shape of my eyes. I've always had them, even since I was a kid. I've never met a concealer, even the most crease-free ones, that doesn't crease just a little bit in that area unless I bake. Moving on, I'm gonna prime my eyes. This may be an optional step depending on how oily your lids are. Mine are pretty oily, so just gonna throw the e.l.f. Lock It Down primer on them. When I'm rushing with my makeup, but I still want something going on my lids, you better believe I'm using eyeshadow sticks, and 2 shades max is all you need for an effortlessly chic look. I'll show you how to do it. So I'm gonna be using the ColourPop shadow sticks in Bear With Me. This is a mauve matte shadow stick. So I'm gonna fill in the lower portion of my eyelid, corner to corner, and then using my finger, blend upwards and a little bit out. I kind of like to flare my eyeshadow out a bit toward the tail of my brow. Now for me, with the ColourPop shadow sticks, I definitely still need to use a primer or they'll crease on me. There are some shadow sticks that I can just use by themselves without needing to prime. The e.l.f. ones are pretty good like that. The Milani ones also stay on me really well without a primer, but they don't have any matte shades in their eyeshadow stick line. And you can also do this with a matte brown, maybe like a mocha mousse brown. That would look really good. But for my base shade, I do prefer a matte, and then I top it with a shimmer. So this is the L'Oreal Lait Shadow Stick in Twinkly Rose. It is sort of a rose gold champagne. And this I'm going to apply right in the middle of my lid, not going as far as my crease. And then I'm just gonna blend that out a bit, sort of spreading it on each side so that it's not just a line. But I do wanna concentrate most of the color in the center. So after I do this preliminary blending, I might go back in and add a little bit more. So we're highlighting the center of the eye. This is adding dimension. It's adding a little bit of glow. Now, personally, I don't spread this out from corner to corner. I'm just blending those edges so that they're not harsh. It's not color blocked. And there we go. That is literally the whole eyeshadow look. I love a good halo eye. It is such a versatile technique that can come in really handy when you don't want to be blending together 4 or 5 shades from a palette, you know what I mean? And I gotta say, I feel like I get the most compliments on my eyeshadow looks when there's something super simple like this. And there we go, so easy. And like I said, you can adapt the shades you use to be colors that work for you. I would just recommend starting with the matte all over, blending it softly, and then topping with a shimmer. Now, if I'm trying to get my makeup done quickly, I am not using liquid eyeliner. That is just asking to be stuck in the loop of evening out the angles and evening out the thickness. No, thank you. I'm going in with a gel pencil liner. This is the Essence Stay and Play liner in But First Espresso. It is a deep brown. So I'm going to tight line my upper waterline, and then just depending on the vibes, I might do a really quick pencil wing. You might say, Miranda, didn't you just say you don't want to get in the habit of like trying to even out wings? It's so much easier with pencil. Pencil's so much more forgiving because I'm keeping it softer. I'm keeping it kind of smudgy. It's not a perfect sharp wing. I'm realizing that because I'm on autopilot and I think my brain is like recognizing that this is my rushing routine, I'm almost rushing through the explanations. So let me explain what I just did on this eye. My body just takes over. So with the eyeliner, I am just applying it to the outermost, I don't know, centimeter of my upper lash line. And then with an angled brush, I'm gonna pull that out to create a soft wing. And then I'm also gonna sort of smudge the liner upward to make it more smoky and not like a sharp liner application. I want it to be a bit blurry because that also helps if you haven't gotten both sides exactly even, which is absolutely the case right now. It just makes it way less noticeable. Also, when you're working with a gel pencil like this, if you feel like something's looking really wonky, you can just take your finger and sort of tap at it to soften it up a bit and kind of get a do-over. This liner stays creamy long enough for you to smoke it out, but then once it sets, it will not budge. Even though I'm moving quickly, I don't want my products to set too quickly because then it just adds an element of pressure. So I don't want to pull that liner too far up. I'm just doing a very soft, short wing. And this is what I mean by just pulling the liner up. It helps soften, diffuse, and blend it. And that's that. Even when I'm not rushing, this is how I've preferred to do my winged liner lately. I just really like how it lifts my eye and it kind of gives the same effect as doing a wing with a liquid liner, but it's just so much less harsh. It's not as much of a statement as it is you just defining your features a little bit. Moving on to mascara, gonna curl my lashes quickly. Typically on autopilot, I will grab the L'Oreal Panorama Mascara because this is a mascara that I can trust will just hang in there all day. It does not smudge, it does not flake. And for me, this is like my ideal mascara comb shape. It is tapered, sort of a cone. So I'm able to grab these inner baby lashes and get them lengthened and volumized as well. The only thing is, this is the one part of my routine now that I slowed down a little bit because it was with this mascara that I damaged my cornea when I was rushing. So that was a trip to the doctor, antibiotic eye drops, and about a week that I couldn't wear any eye makeup. So even if you are really running late, I would recommend just take a breather during the mascara. Please. For the rest of my complexion, when I am in a rush, I'm gonna be using all cream and liquid products. And that is because I can just go in with a sponge and blend everything together. I don't have to be juggling brushes. So I'm gonna use the ColourPop Bronze Sticks in the shade Laguna Beach, which is a great bronzer shade for me. This is a shade that's neutral enough, so I can use it to add bronziness to my face, but I can also contour with it because it's not overly warm. I also often reach for the Physicians Formula Butter Glow Contour Wand in Fair Light for this. The key here is looking for a more neutral shade for a bronzer contour hybrid and finding a formula that you feel is easy to blend. Next, I'm using the Camo Liquid Blush in Suave Mauve. Now this you should be a little careful with if you are in a rush. Basically, you don't want to over apply it. I'm gonna start out with one dot. And again, I'm just going back in with my sponge and spreading it from there. Then if I feel like, okay, I could use a little bit more color, tiny extra dot. But I'm also purposely using the same side of my sponge that has a little bit of my foundation left because having them sort of mixed together does make this liquid blush a bit easier to blend into the rest of my makeup. Now that I know that the other side took 2 dots of color to get where I wanted, I will go ahead and apply 2 dots on this side. So many people complained about this blush being like unblendable because it was so pigmented. I wholeheartedly disagree, you just have to apply less. 5 points to anyone who guesses which highlighter I'm gonna go in with. I'll wait. It's the ColourPop Light Sticks in Glazy. My favorite. This I'm going to pick up on my finger and tap onto the high points of my cheeks. This is a neutral champagne highlight that I feel matches everything, which is why it is my most used highlighter. I don't have to worry about matching undertones. It just always goes with what's on my face. Also putting that on my nose, and I'll use a little bit under my brow bone. Just add a little more dimension up here. And then I'll even take a bit on my pinky and put it in my inner corner. Final step is lips, and lately I've been doing a lot of lip combos. So I'll use a lip liner and then either a gloss or a tinted lip balm, something a little bit sheerer in the middle. Today I'm using the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in Beeper, which is sort of a dusty mauve as well, kind of matches what we've got going on the eyes. After adding the outline, I do fill in the corners, and then just taking my pinky, I'm gonna blend the corners toward the middle and blend the line upward on the bottom and downward on top. And this will just kind of help create that gradient look. Topping this look off, I'm actually using a forgotten favorite that I recently rediscovered. This is the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Lip Shine, specifically in the shade Pink Mocha. I used to use this lip gloss all the time. It is such a beautiful neutral shade and a very hydrating lip gloss. This formula smooths out all my lip lines and conceals the dry patches on my lips, so it's really easy to throw on when my lips are not in great shape. Not sticky at all, and there's actually quite a bit of color to it. One more layer of setting spray, and here's the finished look. So this is definitely my fastest full face of makeup routine, because obviously, like, if I want to go lighter, I could do a 5-minute look that's just like concealer and mascara and brows. I didn't really skip many steps that I would normally do if I was taking my time. Really, the only step that I skipped was brow gel. I just tweaked the products that I grabbed for the most streamlined routine, like using my setting spray as my primer as well, and using the creams that didn't need brushes. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on how to streamline your routine as well. I'd love to know if there are any specific products you reach for that help you get the job done when you're in a rush. Tell me in the comments below. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. If you want to keep watching, join me over in this video next, where I test the new L'Oreal Paradise Big Deal Mascara to see if it lives up to its outrageous claims. I'll see you over there. Bye!